Well, I'm the last one, and thank you for attending. We all are tired. I'm tired. And hello again for anyone who was in the morning. So now I'm going to talk about Ceph weather reports. So I'm going to talk what is new with Ceph, with the last few releases. So we're going to talk what's new in Joule, which is the latest long-term version, and what is new in Kraken, that web is out, and Luminous. So Ceph has a long-term release and a short-term release, one after the other. Those are, and the numbers. So Hammer was in March 15, and actually Hammer 10 is out now. I think it will be the last Hammer version. In Finale, it was in November 15, and it's a short-term version, so it's not spoiled anymore. Joule went out in April 16, and it's going to be spoiled for a while now. And Kraken is out in January. We are really sad that it's a short-term release, but that's life. And Luminous is planned to April 17. So let's start with Joule. So I'm not going to go in detail into Ceph. Ceph is very complex. I will go really quickly what Ceph is. So we have three services that Ceph provides. CephFS for POSIX file system. We have RBD for block storage and Redis Gateway. I hope everybody here, I assume, knows Ceph and doesn't need more details. If so, you can see the video from the morning. Sorry, we don't have time, it's a short presentation. They all use a library for object storage API, libRedis. And underneath we have the Ceph cluster Redis that provide the distributed object storage. So first we start with CephFS because everyone always asks me about CephFS. So we waited a long time for CephFS, and it's stable at last in Joule. But we have several limitations. We only recommend using single active MDS, the metadata server. You can have many standbys, but only one active, and do not use snapshots. We have repair and disaster recovery tools, and we have integration with Manila, and we add a lot of authentication improvements. So this is a bit more about the MDS. So we want to scale file performance. So the I/O path is scaled by adding OSDs to the systems, and of course using SSDs is always the performance. You can have lots of files and a very large file system, and MDS has cache to better performance. And the cache is limited, or the cache size is related to the active set you use and not the number of files you have in your file system. And you can add more RAM in the MDS to improve the performance. And we always recommend using SSDs for the metadata pool. And this one. So this is a picture of the MDS. So the idea of MDS, it's a metadata server, but it's dynamic. You actually, each metadata server handles a part of your file system according to the load. So a metadata server can actually serve one directory if it's very loaded, and the idea it will be active and dynamic, and we actually can see that it stops being loaded and maybe serve those directories. So all the file system is dynamically partitioned. We have consistent caching, and so client can use cache, and they are coherent, and we have invalidation in cache of update. And super plotting. We have the stats and more other stuff. So snapshots are disabled by default in Joule, and we hope by Luminous they will be enabled by default. So snapshots are object granularity. RBD has per image snapshots, and Ceph can snapshot any subdirectory. Let's move a bit. We have FSCK and recovery tools. The FSCK runs, we have online operations to fix your file system. At the moment in Joule, it's manual. And in Karkan, the scrubbing will be automatic. In Karkan, all moves. And we have disaster recovery tool to rebuild the file system in case of failure. There is integration with the Manila. It's ongoing. The moment Joule is integrated into Mythica, but I don't know about the newer OpenStack version. I'm less involved in OpenStack. Other Joule stuff, so we run everything as Ceph user, no go the root. We have SE Linux support, systemd is complete. We are now also have Ceph Ensemble to install Ceph using Ensemble. CLI bus completion and Calamarion mods. We build for ARM. We have also ARM build and Art64 for CentOS 7, Ubuntu Centennial, and the ARM are for Debian Jesse. RBD. So RBD supports now image mirroring. That means you mirror the image to a different node. This is asynchronous replication to a different cluster. And the replicas are class consistent. The replica is per image. We use a data journal for an image in order to support the class consistency. There's a daemon for RBD mirror, and it needs to be that does all the work. So that's other RBD stuff. I'm less familiar with those. So we have fast deep flattening. You can turn off many features, turn on off, and RBD DU, and better CLI. Redis Gateway. So we have in Joule, we've written all the multi-site, the Geo applications. So we no longer use the sync engine for the Geo application. Everything is done by the Redis Gateway itself. We have active end zones application. We have failover and failback, and we simplify the configuration. We also have NFS interface for Redis Gateway. It supports currently only NFS v4. It's used to import or export data to the object storage. It's based on NFS Ganesha linked with libRGW. We have indexless bucket for users who are using lots of objects in the same bucket, millions of ones, and those are buckets that don't maintain the index at all. You cannot list them. But that's make the operation on them faster because we don't maintain the index. Currently, you cannot use Geo application with the indexed bucket. Hopefully, in Kraken, probably Luminous will have Geo application also for indexless bucket. And lots of updates. Most of the Swift stuff is done by Mirantis, so I want to thank Mirantis. I don't know if there's anyone from there. So for Swift, we have Keystone v3, multi-tenancy, object declaration, SLO, block delete, object versioning, and REFCO compliance. REFCO is a test of OpenStack. And for S3, we have AWS for authentication support, LDAP support. STS is not in Joule, STS is a fixed root token server. It will hopefully be in Kraken, probably Luminous.
Sorry, what's STS?
It's a token service. Amazon uses it. It's for very complex authentication that Amazon uses. It's external authentication service. So this user can get from that server a token, and that is passed to the storage, and he does the authentication.
So it's Amazon-specific sort of kernels.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of S3 user wants it. Yeah. So now Redis, we improve queuing and the monitor scalability, lots of optimization, new implementation passing manager that will be use less thread and perform better. We no longer support XT4. It really was sad, but because the X attributes in XT4 are too small now, especially with RBD and also with Redis Gateway, we can get corruption because the X attribute will be too short. So we only support XFS. It's very important. We improved caching, and we added the razor coding, secure razor coding. Fujitsu added that, and Bluestore. Okay, so Bluestore is very important too. So Ceph is built on top of a file system in the end. We store our data in a file system, and there's a layer we call file store, the data. Currently, we do it on XFS, but we noticed our write performance, we have lots of latency issues because of the XFS layer, and also it's much more complex to use it because we actually use several files and we need to synchronize updating that. So Bluestore removed that layer, and instead of using XFS, it actually uses device, and also it uses RocksDB for some key value store for the metadata. Hopefully, Bluestore is just beginning. Hopefully, Luminous will be the default. Yeah. Now we're talking about Kraken and Luminous. So the idea is to make Bluestore the default in Kraken it will be in, but it will still be the preview, but in Luminous, hopefully it will be production ready and you're going to use only Bluestore. We already have actually razor code override for RBD, so we can actually use RBD with the razor coding tools. Ceph Manager is a new component of Ceph. It's like a monitor, but it's external daemon. It's written in Python. It will have REST APIs, and it will have metrics. And first of all, it removes some load from the monitor that does other stuff than actually the clustering. And it also improve our metrics and can also help with managing CFS. We'll add in on the wire encryption, optimize the IO path for the OSD, make the peering faster and more quality of service. And Ceph we'll have Ceph support. We actually have it already. Ceph support for DM cache, Bcache, and flash cache. We have the DM cache. I'm not sure about the others. They'll hopefully be there by Luminous. But it's again the STS, the Amazon like Kerberos, pluggable full zone syncing. So the idea is that we can actually export our metadata out, and we can use that for, first of all, for metadata indexing, metadata search. So we can export the data into Elasticsearch, and then the user can actually search the metadata. It can also be used for tiering, either for tape or for cloud storage, external, like public cloud. We have encryption, thanks to Mirantis, and compression of object, and we are doing lots of performance improvements. There's a work to scale up the performance of Civic Web front end, and we are looking at our performance with the bucket with lots of object themes and so on. For RBD, we continue improving the mirroring, adding high availability, delayed replication, and cooperative daemons. We're adding client-side persistent caching, encryption. There are lots of improvement for the kernel client, performance. There's RBD-backed LIO, SCSI target. We need SCSI because users want to use VMware, and the only way they can use RBD with VMware is SCSI. We add inconsistent groups. Ceph, we hopefully will have multi-active MDS. We'll make the Ceph more scalable and more performance. Snapshots will be there. They are not yet in Kraken. And there's Manila integration. There's integration with Samba for SMB and Ganesha for NFS. And we'll see if we have the rich shackles. There's Mantle, that's a Lua plugin for multi-MDS balancer. We add in some directly fragmentation improvement and the static support. Yes. Those are cool stuff. So we have Ceph Ensemble, Ceph Docker. We support IPv4 and 6. We have PM Store. This is the backend. This is the NVD backend support from Intel. And we have LibRadis backend for OXDB. So it's a lot of stuff. Anyone has something specific you want to ask?
What is Ceph Ansible?
So Ceph Ansible is a way to deploy Ceph in Ansible. And Ceph Docker is a way to deploy Ceph in Docker. So Ensemble, it has all the YAML file for Ensemble and how to. And Ceph Docker, I didn't play it for a while, but it's a way to run Ceph in containers in Docker and deploy it that way. Yes?
You had the link in your earlier presentations to the 500 OSPs with the digital drives.
Yeah.
Every time I've asked for some digital auto drives, they've been saying, oh, well, we'll come back to you. So I've never heard anything about this for actually buying it. You know anything about that?
Yeah, me too. Again, the 500.
The 500 OSPs where they use the drives themselves as OSPs instead of having a server.
Yeah, well, it's an external project. So you can try on the mailing list.
Sorry?
Can you try on Ceph mailing list? See if anyone knows about it. Probably say it, maybe. Yes?
Will you be able to run a Ceph cluster without Ceph Manager?
Yes. Ceph Manager is an additional daemon. Do you know? Do we have to have Ceph Manager in a cluster? I'm not sure.
So the purpose of Ceph Manager is to offload a lot of the stuff that's in the MON right now when it comes to like the API access and statistics and analytics gathering out of the cluster. So if you don't have anything that's using like the Calamari API, or you're not running some sort of a management or a GUI dashboard or anything like that, then yes, you should be able to run a cluster without Ceph Manager when it comes out.
Yeah. And is it possible to spawn, for example, 2 Ceph Managers in a single cluster to provide a hash rate?
I don't think
Yes.
I'm on Ceph was introduction to us. Should I take Joule or should I take Crack?
Okay, he wants Ceph production, small Ceph production, and he asked if you Joule or Kraken. So, of course, Joule always long term. Kraken is short term and it does out. So that means it has lots of new cool features. It's passed some testing we do upstream, but most users never used it.
One question regarding BlueStore. So with BlueStore, there's this check on read for your object data. So does this mean that the eavesdrop interval is decreased on those OCs, or is it still the same?
I don't know, actually.
Because I think there's not really a use for this anymore if it's checked on the read.
Yeah, I'm assuming we won't need this part. But I don't think BlueStore is there yet to that point of level. Yes?
You mentioned quality of service for adults. Some more details about
Well, the idea is to try to limit, well, it's more for hyperconvergence, so we can run, let's say, OSD with other servers, and we can try to limit the resources, or at least have quality of service enough for OSD to run in case of an error. I think in general, Ceph is not really strong in its quality of service. Do you have anything to add about that? Yeah.
Can you just say a little bit about performance increases that Ceph did?
Yeah.
There was a big flag there, and I checked it and I just thought, yeah, hopefully more will change. It seems to be a really issue being discussed.
The async messenger you're talking about?
Yeah.
So the performance for async messenger. So there was some threading issue. It spawned too many threads.
Yeah.
And sadly, too many threads usually it's not good for your performance. So it's less threads. I don't know exactly the implementation. I wasn't that involved in that, but it's.
Does this mean we can now scale beyond nodes easily in the same way CERN scales beyond 20 nodes easily?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the scaling issues have been addressed. There's actually a collection of large-scale users that have been getting together to see how far they can push that. So CERN is one of them. There's a new Ceph large mailing list if you're interested in.
I am interested.
I would join that mailing list. There's some really good stuff there.
Yeah. So the 20 is, we are much more. Yeah. Any more questions?
This is the future of cache sharing, because turns out that Ceph is no longer provided. It's still the open source version. So we're not sure if we also remove from the open source version or
Cache steering? We moved, maybe, Reddit doesn't, sometimes Reddit decide not, well, this is upstream, but Reddit sometimes decide that to support something that upstream may continue to do it. It's not always one-to-one. I think there was some issue of in some cases, cache theory had some bugs and it caused some corruption. So that's why it's not supported. I actually believe it's going to be supported. It's to my knowledge, it's not going to be stopped. And again, mailing list is always a good place to ask.
I know upstream cache sharing is actually still being looked at and revisited a little bit. But I think they're going to kind of rework it and how it works. Because I think there's a lot of desire for people that have dynamic cache sharing both up and down to be able to push things to a hot tier and push things to a cold tier using like blue filters and things like that. As far as Red Hat's commercial support, that I don't know.
One of the
I didn't talk about. So I can say, for example, we're going a lot with we're talking about big data. So Hadoop on the Redis gateway is something we're talking about. Ceph should be also perform well for also large deployments.
I'll just add aptly as a backend to S3 and use with Ceph.
What?
Aptly, this is Debian packaging, mirroring, and repository generation.
Oh, cool. Thank you.